Let's start with 009. What did we think?
I thought for a free card, it was fantastic. What about you, lads?
No, it was good. It was a good card. It was a good card.
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah,
I thought there was a ton of stoppages, good highlights. You know, the start, like OJ Rose's fight was sick. That was a great battle. And it's just these guys are getting so much more like dangerous in there. There's like not as much like pillow hands as you know earlier in the days. Now it's like if you get caught, like you're gonna be sitting down. And I think we saw a lot of that last night. Or sorry, not last night, a few nights ago.
Yeah, I felt like the big guy really stole the show a bit there. Arms is a beast now. We knew it was we knew it was there. Like he's obviously massive, but like a year ago he just looked like, you know, a bodybuilder punch, and now he really looks like a destroyer. He's got that, and the southpaw thing really threw his opponent off there.
It did, and I spoke to London shoot fighters afterwards, who are the same trainers as JJ's. They had three wins that night. Carla Jade, obviously. Hey, BJ.
So, guys, hi.
Carla Jade, which obviously, you know, was her first fight, so couldn't expect too much. Idris and Arms, and obviously they train KSI as well. And they said they'd studied what was available on Uguay, and they estimated that he's going to really want to come forward. And if they take that weapon away from him and stop him coming forward, they estimated he's not going to be able to fight off his back foot, which they were right. I think he kind of panicked, and Arms showed markable improvement. Definitely a contender for the heavyweight title.
Man, you get in the ring with him, you know it's a night, isn't it? It's like you're not walking through that. Like it's going to take. You're going to have to take a few good shots to be able to like get over that. Yeah.
Man, when I saw the tie trunks on Uguay, I immediately was like, uh-oh. Because like in tie training, like you don't walk backwards. And he's just staring at a guy that's like built like a brick house. And I'm like, this isn't gonna work, man. Like that, you have to not do that. But he did. And it's just, you know, it's just an experience thing, right? Absolute credit to Uguay for doing that though. I would have just walked out of the ring if I saw Arms in there like that. Yeah. That guy is insanely built. So credit to him, but he just didn't have the experience to adjust his game plan to be able to match his opponent.
Switching gears a little bit, I felt like Aaron Chalmers actually showed a pretty good account of himself in that first round against Idris. Like Idris has way more experience, and I feel like if we drop Aaron down into like the influencer division, I think he'll give us a really good idea of. He may not be a champion, but you're going to have to get through a lot in order to beat him, and that we'll find out a lot. Kind of like Anthony Taylor level. Him versus Anthony may be a good fight down the road, in fact.
Yeah, that's a good fight.
Yeah.
That's a good fight. That's a good fight for sure. I think him against, well, I know Paul Bamba's taking a break, but to his credit, Bamba is he is getting himself on a card somewhere. So let's see how that goes. You know?
Okay.
But Anthony Taylor against Chalmers does make sense for sure. Idris was in trouble that first round. He really was in trouble.
Exactly. Yeah. Chalmers put a dent in him and gave us a moment there, which Anthony Taylor didn't do to Idris, in my opinion. So that puts Chalmers in that bracket of high-level influencer boxer, for sure, to do that.
Yes. Yeah. And so then who else do we have? We have, who else was a standout? I think obviously OJ Rose.
Yes, Spartan J and Gabriel Silva. I have to give them a shout out, man.
Shout out the Show King. Hey, I loved that personality coming out of him. He was really giving it everything. Like, that's what you got to do. When you have a moment, make it yours and shout it from the rooftop. And yeah, he was a bit wild and crazy, but he was entertaining, especially for a prelim. Like, I was like, okay, you're here for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he was swinging like, sorry, man, what was that?
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, the thing with Small Spartan J is like, you know, he's smaller, so it doesn't translate the same way as if Arms is doing it, but every single one of his punches, he was swinging for the bleachers. Like he was trying to take this dude's head off for 4 straight rounds, like all gas. Like I was sitting there we were on the commentary being like, whoa, like he might gas, but he was like, nah, I'm good for it. Just swing 100%. Like,
do you remember how
Prince
Naz used to like get low to the ground and just jump into those punches? Like he's
Yeah.
he's not Naz, but he was trying his best to like do that, like put every pound of body weight through it. Brilliant.
Yeah, he's definitely landed on Misfits. And where do you guys see him fight? Who do you guys see him fighting next?
What weight is he? Is he the weight of
Dean and Waleed.
Yeah, is he that weight?
That's the weight class he's in. He could still put on a few pounds, but we don't have lower than 135. So, you know, they can agree to meet at 130 and still make it for a 135 title. But I think I'd rather give him 1 or 2 more fights before he
Yeah,
fights
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So maybe, I don't know, maybe Uncle Pizza?
Is he around that weight?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
That's a tough fight for him. That is a tough fight for him.
It's tough. It's a tough fight. Very tough.
But it's a good fight.
It's a good fight. There's quite a few. And then, yes, Silva obviously didn't have the toughest opponent. All credit to Ben. Amazing on the microphone as well. And he came, he came to fight. No excuses. Lovely guy. But Gabe Silva, where do you see him in that division? I mean, he's definitely a threat, isn't he?
No, he's a big threat. The way he held himself, the counter he done was a very experienced counter. He was composed. I think he dealt with it nicely.
I've seen.
Do you guys think that Gabe Silva is too good? Sorry, that was my only question.
Yeah.
Like, where do we put him? Because we haven't seen where his like ceiling's at. But like, is he a high level influencer boxer, or is he kind of entering that pro rank? I'm not sure.
That's the thing. I think his next fight will tell. I could see him fight Paul Bamba. To let us know.
What about? I was gonna say him against Aaron Chalmers will be a
Oh,
test
come on.
Ooh.
We got to give Aaron Chalmers a break. God bless him.
That'll be a very good
Chalmers is just going through death row right now because he fought an MMA guy, didn't he, before this, who was a tough guy.
Yeah.
It is tricky because he went through Ben like a hot knife through butter, and we don't know how good he is. I've seen Gabe get knocked out before in a kickboxing match. I think that went kind of viral because of who his dad is. So he is obviously like, once you've been knocked out before, we all know that can happen again. I think we need to put him in there against a hard hitter and someone who's really, because Ben, it's just his first go. We just have no context really. So we need like a mid-level guy to find out just how good he is, I think.
Yeah, that was Wade's fault, that mismatch. I blame Wade for that one.
Yeah.
Wade's
no, it is. We should see who's going to call him out. Who do you think will call him out? Would any influencers call him out? Fancy a try against him?
I don't know, but listen, I've got a Brazil card coming up, and I think
it makes perfect sense.
Got to have Gabe on there, you know.
So if any of you guys out there fancy a bit of Brazil, call him out, man. Lean forward.
Yes. Anyone who wants to fight Gabe Silva in Brazil, let us know.
The thing is like we can't know how good he is yet, right, Mams? Like,
really
so I feel like people
calling out Salt Pappy, for example. He's like, I want to fight Salt. I want to fight. I think he mentioned a couple of other names, but it's difficult to measure him and know. I think he fought another boxer and he won, but it was not an easy win, and that boxer didn't have a great record. So again,
what about the loser of Anthony Taylor versus King Kenny?
Maybe throw like a crash dummy in it, Raksu or someone.
Raksu, he's actually a really interesting guy for that weight class because you can tell he's solid and he fights like a lunatic. He will find out if Gabe Silva's the real deal for us, for sure.
Yeah.
And if he wins that, if Raksu wins that fight, he should be rewarded heavily as well.
Oh yeah, of course.
He should get a title shot if he wins that fight.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm with that.
Yeah, of course.
Interesting. FaZe Temper. He's back.
He's back.
Good win. Good win. Ginty didn't put up the best resistance. I don't know how seriously he takes the game, really.
I was convinced he was taking it seriously. I mean, he definitely talked the most, you know?
Yeah.
He lost weight. Like he looked fitter than he's ever looked, for sure. So he was definitely doing some training. I just don't know if it I don't know what type of training he was up to.
You know the way he was just cornered and didn't circle out and didn't even sort of. It was as if he really hadn't been sparring much. Like he was just sitting in the corner, inviting it on, and Temper just pinned him into that corner and unloaded on him. I don't understand what he's being taught. And ironically, from what I'm led to believe, his coach was kind of questioning the validity of FaZe Temper's coaching, Deontay Wilder's coach. You know, like I'm not sure what he was, because he should have been shouting at him, "Get the fuck out of that corner," in my opinion.
Yeah.
What I thought was a bit funny is that Temper beat Ginty essentially the same way that Temper has been beat in all of his fights.
Yeah.
Whenever it gets close, Temper's chin comes up and he starts doing this. And it's exactly what Ginty did.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like maybe Ginty just needed to learn that lesson the hard way. That if you bring your chin up, it's going to get touched, especially if you're like, a tall, thin guy like that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to write him off yet. He's such a young guy and he was super game, but it wasn't his night for sure.
Well, Temper says, I think for Temper's confidence, that was a great fight, regardless. I know it's Ginty, but it's still gotta help his confidence just to get back in the ring and take a W after being knocked out. Did we see any improvements, or do you think there wasn't? I mean,
it was nothing special.
What do you think, BJ? BJ, what did you see of FaZe Temper?
It's tough to tell with Ginty because he didn't have, the level of opposition in front of him to, really show too much, I don't think, in my opinion. And to agree with Brian, what Brian was saying about Ginty, I was on a Twitter space with him, and his coach were just pretty much dismissive of Temper, dismissive of Malik. Like Malik's never trained anybody. Temper, he's not, he's been knocked out twice. And I'm like, look, being knocked out by Slim and being knocked out by KSI is very different than being knocked out by Ginty, and this is a different challenge. And they were just very dismissive of Temper and very dismissive of Malik and what he's been working on for 9 months. And they were just like, well, Ginty's like, well, with my power, he's not going to be able to stand up. He's not. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, it's going to be hilarious. So it kind of worked out how I thought it was going to work out. But
yeah,
that's what I from it.
I thought Temper did well to not get carried away in the heat of the moment. And when he did have him hurt, he kept his chin down, kept the range. He showed that he's learned for sure.
You see Ginty just stand straight up. He's obviously never sparred or been instructed. Every time he gets contact, gets close to him, there's any threat, he gets up, he gets erect and elevated, and it's just the opposite of what you have to do in a combat sport. So a lot of work.
I thought Temper's biggest improvements were offensively. I thought that he knew his range a bit better. He knew how to enter the pocket a lot more safely. He entered the pocket with combinations every single time. He changed levels on his way in. He didn't throw just one or two. He threw in combination. Really exposed the gaps of his opponent. I still saw, Temper has this. It's obviously a deeply ingrained habit to just kind of bring his chin up a little bit once it gets a bit tight, and he still did that a little bit, but it seemed like he was offensively responsible enough that he didn't get caught. And so I thought there was definitely notable improvements specifically in his offensive game plan. That's where I saw it, at least.
I got a question for Mums. Elle Brooke kind of, did her thing and stole the show on the microphone. And God bless our boy Riley for trying to keep a hold of that microphone. But what we saying about that? Because she was really calling it out and trying to make a fight happen. Are we going to see her on the Prime card or not?
We're not going to see her on the Prime card, but I did try to make a fight for her on the Prime card. She is moving down in weight to the 125 division, hence her call out of AJ. I felt AJ should have had at least another minute to celebrate before that interruption, because she's just fought her heart out,
Yeah,
and
she
Belzy's
ruined that.
a tough girl. If Belzy didn't get hit, and her equilibrium not get messed up. She got punched in the ear pretty badly, and I think she got a perforated eardrum from that. I wonder if that fight would have gone differently, because Belzy's quite a tough lady. But either way, AJ had a moment. I don't know. AJ didn't seem too keen on that fight, did she?
Well, I mean, you took the title fight.
Nah, she ain't on it. She
You
ain't
want
on
the
it.
title, you got to put up with the challengers, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you do. Number one contenders are mandatory. That's why we're here. That's why you guys are here. So if that's the fight for her, that's the fight for her, and I'm sure she'll prepare and she'll want her redemption. I think she's talking about getting a rematch with Astrid. That seems to be something she's interested in, but you know, then she won't be able to keep this belt.
Do you know Astrid versus Albrook would be the one to end up, like the builder for that, right? These two, I'm not normally that bothered about female fights, to be honest with you. No disrespect, but this one, you're getting tickets for this, because this is the way they'll shit talk each other. They'll hate each other by the time that this will be worse than Dillon Danis, Logan Paul by the time they get in the ring. They'll want to claw each other's face off.
I think I would run that as a pay-per-view. I really do.
Yeah, on OnlyFans for sure.
One
Mans,
thing that sort of frustrates me is that it's like when people become champions, they act like they've got equity in a company. So what? You win the belt and win like 5% equity or something. Like they think they run the company.
You're right. There is a sense of that. Ultimately, they've got to fight who we put before them. You know, and I think that's rather than, and that's why you guys are here as well, and that's why the rankings and all of that. What did you think of did you guys see the rankings? Not too many changes, just a couple sprinkled here and there.
Yeah.
Any proposed changes, let me know before I print those, obviously. Goes to you guys.
Yeah, I'll forward it in the group.
Yeah.
I thought that there was a few ones I wasn't too sure about, but I'll look again. But it wasn't nothing major. Like,
yeah.
Same. Yeah, there was just like one or two that maybe I would switch around, but for the most part, it's pretty solid.
Come October 14th, October 15th, the rankings might look quite different as well.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
With KSI being number one, hopefully.
You know, I was worried about that. David Hayes just picked KSI to win. We got to pray that Drake bets on Dillon Danis just to even this out right now.
I say no. I say I hope Drake bets on KSI, because KSI was the first person I can remember saying, I'm going to shock the world and winning. And then this, he's a breaker of curses. So let's let them pick KSI. But yeah, they do get it wrong quite a lot. We'll redeem it for them this time, hopefully.
What we saying about the Prime card? Is there anything else we got to do on 009, or do we? What is there to talk about on the Prime card?
Well, Prime card is in. It's done. There's going to be 4 prelims and 7 main card bouts, and that's it. We were going to have a 5th prelim. Paigey Keiki and Tennessee Thresh not able to fight each other, and rather than replace it with something like, you know, that would be entertaining or good or whatever, I really wanted it to be something amazing. And if we don't have that standard, then I think 4 prelim fights is more than enough, and then 7 main card. It's still more than we've ever done. So yeah, we've got 11 fights in total. I think obviously the buzz about Salt Pappy and Slim coming from 009, I'm so glad it mostly went to plan. But that's one I'm looking forward to. And I think the fans are going to vote the order of the fights. But I'm holding the fight before Logan and Dillon for either Salt Pappy versus Slim or Dean versus Waleed, because I can't have Winderson's hordes of Brazilians voting for him to. Do you know what I mean? I think it would disrupt things a little bit. But yeah, crazy fights. For some reason, I no disrespect to Dean and Waleed, because that's a mega fight as well. I just feel like Salt Pappy and Slim have been on. We've never seen it yet.
And there's something in that where we've been waiting to see these two for a while get in there. So that would be my preference, but obviously we'll see.
I think,
agree.
No. The reason why I'd rather Dean versus Waleed, because they're going to showcase the better boxing. So for the purists out there, I think that might be better before.
I feel like targeting the purists is targeting the wrong audience, though.
No, but
like that's
we
not
all
what we're
love
doing
proper
here
boxing
at
though.
all.
We all love proper boxing.
No, absolutely, but like it just feels like the point of Misfits is to not necessarily be strictly targeting that, right?
It's a good argument. I like it.
It's one of them ones. It's one of them ones.
Well,
I mean,
look,
we're talking between two great fights, aren't we? So it's hard to choose.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd be disappointed in either fight, to be honest. You know, but also, let's face it, a lot of the so-called purist fans don't know anything about boxing. They just watch traditional boxing, right?
Bars.
And yeah, and that's the truth of it. So they'll be watching, and they'll probably be far more entertained by that fight than a regular traditional 8 or 10 round boxing match. So,
And
the way I look at Slim versus Saul Pappy, it's either going to be a great fight or it could be a stinker. With Dean versus Waleed, it's guaranteed explosive. It's guaranteed to be explosive, without a shadow of a doubt. But
why are you worried it could be a stinker, Leon?
Because to be honest, Slim ideally needs to keep it nice, long range, move around the ring, not too many exchanges. Don't avoid the mid range. He could stink out the place. That's his best bet. He don't want to go head to head with Salt Pappy.
He's never quite managed that though, has he?
Breaking the clinch.
Slim's he's never quite managed that. Slim. That's my only thing is I don't think for 5 rounds he'll be able to do that. But I get you.
And
You're right.
And fitness wise, as history shows, he's not that fit going into the later rounds. So he needs to reserve his energy.
And neither was Salt Pappy against AT. I think they'll both tie out by the 3rd.
See, that's a pretty good argument. You're right.
Salt Pappy's got the new body though. He's got the updated figure.
Mate, he looks fantastic, doesn't he? He looks
unreal.
Amazing.
Unreal.
They both in that ring when that was announced, they both had an energy about them, a winner's energy. You know what I mean when you see someone and they're just buzzing and really, really on it, and there's that sort of aura around them. So I don't know, but funny story. Salt Pappy was sitting a few seats away from KSI, and basically I didn't know that, and this guy says, "Hi sir, how are you? Nice to see you." And I was like, I don't know this guy. Looks familiar, but who the hell is he? So you know when you're polite, but you're not super friendly. You're just polite and like just to be like, oh, whoever you are, nice to see you too. Yeah. And then Abs turns around and says to me, "Mams, you know that was Salt Pappy, right?" I go, "Fuck off, it was." I can't believe it. I'm telling you, I literally didn't recognize him. So I went and found him, and I'm like, "Bro, I'm so sorry. I hope I wasn't rude." You know?
The transformation of Salt Pappy has been it's been one of the standout things to happen on Misfits, in my opinion. Like when you look at that chubby guy who started just unleashing them hands, and now look at what he looks like, and he looks like a star. Now he carries himself like one. And if he wins, you're gonna have a tough one on your hands because then you got to match him up with one of the best. Then
oh yeah, I think there's fights out there. See who wins the King Kenny and AT fight. Gib obviously will have doors open to Gib when he's ready to come to Misfits as well. It's going to be, people are worried that we've got too many great fights on one card, but if anything, it just sets up more fights.
Yes.
You know? So
it can set the standard for the whole year.
Is there any update on the rumors of Dillon Danis pulling out?
Dillon Danis was trending 10 minutes after he said, "I'm done." And that's what he wants. He's very happy. As far as I'm concerned, the conversations I've had with his team, he's coming to fight. And he's excited and he's confident. So let's see what happens. BJ, I think you're the biggest fan of Dillon.
Oh, but circling back real quick though to the Dean the Great in the Waleed and the Salt and the Slim fight. Like in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, whenever you have a big event like this, you always want everything to build. And I just feel like the build up for Salt and Slim is even bigger than the build up for Dean and for Waleed.
True.
If that fight
That's
already
very true.
happened, Slim's undefeated. Salt lost to Anthony Taylor, who no one really regards that a loss too much. I mean, he's a new guy. I think everybody can't wait to see what happens in the Slim and the Salt Poppy fight. And with all due respect to the Dean the Great and the Waleed fight, it's just it doesn't match up. I don't think hype wise, anything wise. Like so many people are buzzing to see this fight. It's important the timing of these fights. So it's like when you get an adrenaline rush, and then it goes back down, and then you got to get it back again. It's a little tougher than if you just get it the first time and you keep it. And I feel like that's the key in matching this event. I think Salt and Slim's got to be later. I think there's more people there to watch it. I think it's a bigger fight. You got undefeated against a new, Salt 2.0, like Leon said. I think it's just, to me, that's my opinion.
No, it's a valid point. I agree. I actually agree now. Yeah, it makes perfect sense to keep the climax going up.
But the people will see that as well and hopefully make the votes that they think, that make sense.
Yeah.
The tag team match, not getting the shine it should, I think that's going to be entertaining. And we had to include a little bit of the Misfits DNA as well for the public to see, because my argument was against people who said, you're putting too many great fights on this card. It was, we're getting so many new eyeballs and you get one chance to make a first impression. So this is a hell of a first impression on the casual. Imagine if you didn't know anything about influencer boxing or influencers and you'd heard about it through your peripheral, but you never really checked it out. And this is the first time you're watching it. What an impression,
This is exactly what Dana White used to do on the UFC, though. Like he wouldn't do that many pay-per-views a year, maybe like 6 a year, but he'd stack them with every big star he had and make you want to keep watching. And look at where they are now. And look, I'm not saying that this is on a UFC trajectory, but it's a method that works.
Yeah, I think if the tag team was a surprise, it would have went down better.
You think so?
Yeah.
Mams and his surprises, eh? God bless that Uruguay. Imagine. I hate to see what Mams gives people for Christmas. Jesus.
I'll send.
I will say, just to build off that, like something that I love about cards like this is in traditional boxing, which I adore. The undercards are usually either almost comical mismatches, right? Like you'll get like a journeyman fight against an up-and-comer where he'll just completely blow him out of the water. You might get some kind of stagnant fights. This is one of these things where if people come and even are watching the prelims, they're going to be able to enjoy the entire show. Like all the fights are competitive. It's not the situation where we're being really protective of certain guys and building them up, which is something you have to do in boxing. Like it's super important and vital, but we don't have to do that here because, a guy that's not getting enough shine too is like King Kenny. Like when he came in, he just fought the hardest dudes he could find the whole time. So sure, his record's not perfect, but it's been awesome to watch it happen because he's taking on the hardest challenges and he doesn't have to protect his he doesn't have to do these things. So we have a lot of luxuries that traditional boxing doesn't get. And I think that's going to make sure that this card is super exciting the whole way through. And that could set a really good impression, in my opinion, because that's something that UFC does really well, like Brian was saying. And that's something that, traditional boxing, sometimes misses out on. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And I think the tag team is a good way to like put that in there, and it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun, and people are going to be kind of surprised that they enjoy it.
It's actually good level tag team as well, isn't it? It's because I think the first tag team was there was 2 guys in there who did not want to be there, but this is a well matched tag team match. It's going to look fun. It's going to look really entertaining.
I think so. They're all listen, Pineda, he's training harder than ever. He's motivated. B-Dave's improving. Still got work to do. And Wasabi and Nick Alameo, they're good friends. Let's see, Aside from that, I do think it's important that we distinguish that we're different, and we do occasionally do fun things like this as well. So letting people see the that there's a little something for everyone is an important part of this. I mean, back to your point as well, Riley. What's the biggest fight in history in terms of pay-per-view? It was Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao, I believe, by a considerable margin.
So.
Can you guys know a lot about boxing? Everyone on this call pretty much knows a good amount about boxing or combat sports. Can you name 2 other fights on that card?
Oh damn.
Wait, which card? Mayweather and Pacquiao.
And Mayweather.
It was in Vegas.
Was Badou Jack on the card? Was Badou Jack on the card?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, probably.
Sounds like somewhere he'd be.
Most likely.
The only reason I'm saying that though is because I know he always fights on Floyd undercards.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I don't remember.
It was the same for McGregor versus Mayweather, and most other Mayweather fights. You know what I mean? Yeah. It'll be exactly the same on Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. You know, so
Joe Parker's going to be on that card.
Yeah, well, I mean, fair. I mean, they've got one of Fury's mates on, but like, you know,
it will never be a stacked card in boxing. It will never be a stacked
Frank
card.
Warren, no chance.
Yeah. So I think this is the fun thing that we're doing differently. We really want. We're not just saying, all right, let's make as much money as we can on this and let it be. Then we'll save it and build this guy and put that guy on. We just want the action. And I think that's the attention span that our fans have anyway, is they demand the action. And, you know, so we'll keep giving it to them. Of course, there is some sense in, like with Gabe Silva, we want to find out how good he is before we match him up again. We want to test that. We want to build certain people like Jarvis. I think Jarvis has a lot of potential. So I didn't want him to be on the prime card to be fed to the Lions. He was campaigning to fight Salt Papi and Slim and anyone else.
Time, man.
It takes some time. We know where you're at. Let's
you know, Jarvis is eager.
He's very eager.
I'm not mad at.
Really wants it, but
I don't know weight class wise, but Jarvis versus Temper would interest me.
Too small, isn't he?
Weight class is too crazy.
Yeah,
Jarvis is like 155.
Jarvis can fight at 155 comfortably. Temper has stated he wants to stay Bridgerweight under the 205 category.
Wow. Okay.
So. But yeah, and then speaking of traditional boxing, Zhang. What do we think, guys? Did you guys watch that? Joe Joyce,
Chinese power.
Man, my heart broke.
Joyce. Everyone was avoiding him back in the day. What do you think? Do you think it's a timing thing for him? Do you think years ago he would have done better in that fight, or do you think?
I think it's a style thing. It's a style thing. He's a southpaw. He's explosive. He's fast. Joe kind of wears people down. He's like a big robot, and he is strong. He's always been like that. He got a late start in boxing, but he wears people down inside. Can't really get away from him, but Zhang's got that explosive power and that quick twitch, and it's very rare for a Chinaman to have that size with that explosion and that power. And he's just got he's got a little bit of a swag to him too. He's like, I'm the big bang. I bang everything. You know, he's kind of like. Yeah. I don't know. He's a very entertaining guy. His style is gonna be tough for anybody. I don't think Tyson will be jumping in line to fight him. And why should he? You know, he's proven everything. I think it's a tough fight. He's a southpaw. He's 6'7". He's 270. I mean, he's a rough night for anybody.
Yeah, Tyson struggled with southpaw. The southpaw who
Otto Wallen.
Cut up. Otto Wallen. And you think about like Otto Wallen's quite an athletic guy, but he doesn't hit as hard as Zhang. And another thing from Zhang is like, I know he got beat off AJ in the amateurs, but you can see how much he's evolved and a lot of these heavyweights do as they get into their late 30s and even 40. He's just got that confidence and he knows that with that power and being that big, and you've seen how AJ even struggled with just a fairly average, in my opinion, big guy in his last fight. I just think that what they'll do, here's what we'll say. We'll say Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren speak bad of him because they've got no intention of making that fight. And it'll be like, oh, he's just this, it's that. And maybe Usyk will be the one who ends up strapping the balls on and getting in there with him. But I feel like he's a rough night. I think top 5 heavyweight for me, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I think so, too.
Yeah, and then we got
he could just sit in the furnace. What's that, man?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Then there's Hrgovic as well. There's a few heavyweights. Top 5. I wonder if they're all going to fight each other, though. That's what we all want.
No.
They need to do a heavyweight prime card.
They're sitting waiting on Saudi money, right? So it'll be Usyk who'll be probably going door to door trying to fight everyone, and the rest of them, you know, like the AJ Wilder, we're in talks. They've been in talks for like what, 8 years. It's embarrassing, isn't it? They really should be embarrassed that that fight hasn't taken place, and the fact that they said it was coming into Saudi, and then now Saudi have delayed it. Well, then make it in Vegas. Like, what are you waiting for? Do you know what I mean? So I'm sick of listening to fight promoters now. I just don't even entertain half the crap they come out with.
Yeah, you mean traditional fight promoters? Right?
Apart from you, Mams, you're good. You're all right.
Speaking of which, we're getting some headway. It looks like Las Vegas will allow Misfits to make their presence felt there as well. And so that's a big step.
Imagine Misfits in Vegas. Then we're going to have to step it up again. Bloody hell.
Yeah, that has to be a prime card. It has to be a prime card.
Yeah, I think so.
I
think so. Brazil is
because
confirmed.
you got to remember most people fly to Vegas for fights.
Yes, but
and
you do have a lot of. The UFC built that model through a lot of hotel guests who were like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, yes.
You know, my first thought. If I mean, look, Wembley makes sense, right? But if you don't do Wembley for Jake Paul versus KSI, Vegas is pretty cool as well. Like that's the level that fight's on, right?
That is a Vegas fight.
Because I feel like you need one of the Paul brothers on a Vegas card because they're just so huge in America that they could make that work.
100%. I'd love to do that. That'll be a great fight. Or JJ McGregor as well would do okay.
Yeah, you've nailed it.
Yeah, there's definitely rumors going around, which we'll get into maybe in our next call. This is where I have to respect Logan. He really, really had no hesitation in choosing Mike Perry. He had no qualms about it. And honestly, me and KSI were in the group chat and we're like, you know, he's really, really tough. He's a tough kid. And he's like, guys, you don't know. You're not ready for what you're about to see. It made us think like, you know, and he didn't sound like Ginty when he was saying it.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyway, we'll speak again before that card. But, yeah, thank you guys for joining. And we'll see you on the group chat.
Thanks, guys.
Boys.
Take care.
Cheers.
Guys.
Thank you, guys.